Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. Many voices, many faces, all great. This is Many Voices of Great. That's impact the right way. Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. Many voices, many faces, all great. This is the Many Voices of Great. That's impact the right way. Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. Many voices, many faces, all great. This is the Many Voices of Great. That's impact the right way. Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. Many voices, many faces.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Many Voices of Grit. Me, your host, Vernon Wright. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at The Right Leader, hashtag That's Impact the Right Way. And as well, be sure to follow the hashtag The Many Voices of Grit. And as we say here on the show, many voices, many faces, all grit. And obviously, for those of you that follow the show regularly, let me go ahead and say this, particularly for this episode. This is one where you will want to share it, pay it forward, make a difference in the lives of those you love and in the lives of your colleagues and other individuals that you know will be positively impacted by this information. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're probably wondering, I see the title that says Pirate Grit. Whom might this be, Vernon, that you have gone out and that you have reached out to have on the show as a guest? Ladies and gentlemen, you know that literally we reach across the world to bring you some of the finest guests on this show. Some guests from as far away as Abu Dhabi and even Tokyo, ladies and gentlemen. But this guest is not from abroad, but he is indeed someone that is known literally worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an episode you will want to watch over and over again. Mark my words on it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor, privilege, and pleasure to bring to you today the impeccable, the one and only Dave Burgess. Dave, go ahead and introduce yourself. Not that there is anyone out there that doesn't know you, but go ahead and introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, you bet. So are you kidding me? Am I on the air live with Vernon Wright?
Indeed. Can you believe that, ladies and gentlemen?
Texas?
Here in Texas.
That's
yes.
Right. Hey, well, it's
very
an honor
hot
to be with
Texas.
You. Yeah. I was just down there, and I can verify that. So it's an honor to be with you today. So I'm Dave Burgess. I'm from San Diego, California. I'm the author of Teach Like a Pirate, and I am the president of Dave Burgess Consulting Incorporated, which publishes innovative books and professional development speaking for educators around the world, and I'm excited to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I told you, this guest today on the show is a huge guest, and now you understand and you know why the title of this episode is simply Pirate Grit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a good one. As we would say in the slang vernacular, this one's going to be pure fire, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm looking forward to it myself, and I'm the host. Am I supposed to say that? I think I just did, right? All right. So, Dave, shall we go ahead and get into question number one? Are you ready?
I'm all set. Let's do this.
Okay. All right. Question number one, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that follow the show, you know what it is. For those of you that maybe are watching this for the first time, here we go, equally likewise. Dave, talk to us a little bit about, if you would, a time in your life when you went through some situations and it was grit, but you really didn't realize, understand, or fully comprehend that it was grit until later on. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know what? So I would go right back to the origin story where this all started with Teach Like a Pirate. I did not have a workshop. I did not have a seminar. I didn't have anything. I was a full-time classroom teacher, right? And I went to lunch with my department chair one day, and he came in and he said, you know what? I just got put on the professional development committee for the district, and I thought to myself, how cool would it be if you put together a workshop based on some of that crazy stuff you do down in your room that nobody understands? And then he said something that changed my life. He said, but I don't think you can. Because the more I think about it, I think that your success in the classroom is just kind of you. It's personality driven. I'm not sure it's something you could teach to other people. He kind of moved on. Well, I took that as a challenge. I said, sign me up to do one of those things. I'll sign up. I'll do a workshop. So I signed up to do a full day workshop for the peers of my district, Vernon. And here's the thing. I drove away from that meeting going, what have I just done? Like, I don't have a workshop. What? And so I was fortunate in this situation where I had seized opportunity before I was ready. And I think that's a key lesson to success in life is you're not always going to be ready when opportunity comes. You got to take it and then get ready, right? And so if you wait to be ready before you move forward on something, you're never going to go, right? You got when opportunity comes your way, you have to seize it, you have to take it, and then let that pressure of the situation drive you forward rather than to make you cower in fear. Let it drive you forward to prepare for it. And that's where I was. I became relentless. I started to write down everything I did in my classroom that I thought was successful. But see, that wasn't good enough because that's what I do. I had to take a step back further and try to come up with where these ideas come from. And every time I traced back, it came back to the same kind of stuff. And so I began to compile these things and I built my workshop, right? And so I did it for the peers in my district. Right? I just had this like almost evangelical zeal for the message. And so nobody knew who I was at this point. I think that's what sometimes people forget is because they see what's happened now since then, right? And they kind of missed the origin of it. Nobody knew who I was. And I started to go anywhere where anyone would listen to me to talk about these ideas. Nobody knew who I was at this point. I was just a crazy guy walking around these conferences dressed like a pirate, right? I submitted conference proposals everywhere. And if any conference in any state said, you can come do your pirate thing here, I got a plane ticket. I bought a conference registration. I got a hotel room. And I went and I did my thing, right? And so I think that's a key point. It's like now I hear sometimes people will tell me like, well, you don't understand. It's difficult because nobody wants to pay me to come speak. Nobody wants to pay you to come speak. Like nobody paid me to come speak when I started this thing. I had an evangelical zeal for the message. I would walk around these conferences and I recruited people. I worked. No one was going to come to my room because no one knew who I was, right? So I wrote up my session description to make it sound like you were going to Disneyland. You know, when you go to these programs and you read through you go through the conference, you read through the program, a lot of these programs sound like you're going to the dentist office to be drilled, right? Hey, mine sounded like you were going to Disneyland because I used copywriting techniques that I had learned. I had studied marketing. I had studied entrepreneurship. I had studied copywriting. So I wrote up my session description using all those techniques to try to draw people in the room. And then I walked around and face-to-face recruited people. I would go by the lobby area where the conference was. I would go through the breakfast area. I would go through the registration table area and just introduce myself and say like, hey, come see me speak. This is what I'm going to be talking about. And I would just invite people to come, right? I played loud pirate music out of my room. I stood out in the hallway like a carnival caller and drew people in, right? And say, hey, you don't want to go to that session. This one's going to be better. Vernon, we would pack these rooms because I would just be in a little session room and we would line the walls. They'd be sitting in the aisles on the wall behind me. They'd be blocked out in the hallway trying to get in, right? And we broke fire code after fire code in the early years of this. Oh my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you see that? Dave Burgess was a rebel back then, ladies and gentlemen, but he was trying to get the message out. I want you guys to make sure that you understand that.
we would, and everyone else would stand up at their session at their podium and they would read down their PowerPoint slides, right? I would just strap on a little microphone, go racing through the room, rant and rave, like demonstrate the pirate strategies and all that kind of stuff. It got bigger and bigger. It started to build and grow. And then, Vernon, a publishing company came to me and they said, we would like to do a book with you based on these ideas. I can still remember it to this day. It was in a coffee shop in Washington, D.C. at the NCSS conference. And she offered me a publishing contract. I went straight up into my hotel room, Vernon, and I Googled publishing contracts because I thought she was trying to cheat me. And then when I Googled publishing contracts, I came to find out she was not trying to cheat me. That's exactly what they look like. And to me, the only thing missing was a ski mask and a gun. I was like, wait a second. I'm going to write this book. It's my intellectual property. I'm going to travel around and speak about it. I'm going to build a social media platform. And you make how much money? And I make how much money? It made no sense to me. And they wanted to take creative control of my project. They wanted to remove the edgy stuff. They wanted to take out the rants about the overemphasis on standardized test scores and all that kind of stuff. They said my book was too personal. They said, they wanted to change the title. They said, no one's going to take your book seriously with that title, right? That cheesy title, right? But this was my story. This was my brand. This was my message. This was my manifesto, right? And so we told all the publishing companies where to go. We didn't know anything about publishing companies. We studied publishing. We studied all this stuff. We read up. We started our own publishing company, and we published Teach Like a Pirate right from the kitchen table, right off a laptop at the kitchen table is where we published this book. And in the process of learning how to get our message to spread, we learned a ton of stuff about publishing, all that. And so other people started to come to us and say, we don't want to sign those contracts either. How are you doing this stuff? And so we said, you know what? Let's just break up this industry. Let's disrupt this industry. The publishing industry is based on an outdated model. And so when you see something that's based on an outdated model, it's time to disrupt it. So we said, we're going to start signing these people. We'll put their books out just like we did Teach Like a Pirate right from our house. And so now, we publish over 70 different books, and we still run the business right here from our house in San Diego, California. But it was a long road to get there. It wasn't easy, but we showed grit, perseverance, and learned what we had to do and built this thing on the fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is phenomenal. And I'm just going to, I told you that this was fire. And this episode is straight fire, ladies and gentlemen. Straight to you. This is one I told you you're going to want to watch over and over again. Many, many, many points, ladies and gentlemen, that I hope that you got. I hope that you were taking notes as we go through this. One thing I want to say is this, and there is not one single person in their right mind. Yes, I said it. Not one single person in their right mind that would question the purpose and the passion of Dave Burgess, ladies and gentlemen. And here a man is that has created, he along with his wife, Shelley Burgess, they have created really an empire of educational publishing. Over 70 books, ladies and gentlemen. And when he talks about the beginning, you see the fire in his eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not reading off of a PowerPoint. This is real. This is real, folks. And I want to say this particularly to those of you that are leaders. And let me go ahead and let me just show you that I have the book here myself, Lead Like a Pirate, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to be a leader, you better have some authenticity, folks. Just because you have a degree, as my friend Evan Robb says, a degree does not go ahead and qualify you to be a leader. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to have some authenticity and some passion. Now, I could go ahead and go on, but they tell me that I have to ask you another question. So I better go ahead and do that. But my rebel and the pirate inside me is wanting to come out. I want you guys to understand that. And let me go ahead and say this real quick before I go into the next question. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you realize it or not, there's a pirate inside of you. There is a pirate inside of you, and you've been thinking about how can I go ahead and unleash this pirate in a way that is constructive, productive, and elevates people and serves people. And Dave Burgess is the key. All right. With roughly about 5 minutes left, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to skip to question number 3 because arguably of the 3 questions, and those that follow the show know this is really what would be arguably my favorite question. Ladies and gentlemen, if the response to this episode is good, we will see if Dave can come back on the show. Obviously, he is a very, very, very busy man. But let's go ahead and move on to question number 3. Hopefully, we can have Dave on the show again to talk about some other things as well relating to grit. Question number 3, Dave, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm set. Let's do this.
All right.
Again.
Here we go. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm the show host, and I love it, ladies and gentlemen. Question number 3. Dave, if you were able to get into a time machine, go back in time and give a letter to your younger self, what wisdom, guidance, advice, and insights would you put in that letter to your younger self, the younger Dave Burgess, the one who was not getting paid to go speak, the one who was really traveling, promoting and creating a company on his own dime? What would you put in that letter?
You know what? I think one of the things I would tell my earlier self is when I graduated from college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I did all sorts of different things and try and dip my hands into all kinds of different stuff. And I would say it's all going to work out. Live wide, read wide, and live wide, right? And so I'm going to tell you something that's very unusual about Teach Like a Pirate that ties into this. There's not one single educational book that's referenced inside of it, not a single one. Not because I don't like education books, I published them. It's because that's not where it came from. It was from the outside drawn in. It's a mindset of looking around the world and saying, how can I use that? Always look at, like, what do other professions use to engage in their line of work? How can I use that in my line of work? What are kids into outside of school? How can I use that inside of school? What's popular in the world? Like, what's drawing people's attention and engagement in the world? How can I use that, right? And so if you look at my book, like, for example, it was my background as a basketball coach. That influenced how I give feedback to students, how I break down instruction, how I develop a motivational component to my class, like how a basketball coach or any coach can get a team ready to go knock down a wall coming out of a locker room. I can do that with my students. I can get them ready to go knock down a wall, right? My background as a magician influenced my sense of staging and showmanship and incorporation of props. My background as an entrepreneur and a marketer and my interest in those areas developed like how a marketer creates buzz for a new lesson, for a new product or service. I create buzz for lessons and for content, right? I'm using marketing techniques in my classroom. And my background as an MC. So if you were to see me speak, do a professional development workshop or a keynote, you might say to yourself, wait a second, is this a workshop or is this a show? Like, what have I just walked into here, right? It's because my background as an MC has influenced my professional development speaking style. I'm a person who's used to speaking in a fast and flourishy way on a microphone in front of people. And so that's influenced my speaking style and the way that I control a crowd, right? And so all these things have come together to create the best me. But Teach Like a Pirate is not about anybody teaching like me. Teach Like a Pirate is about you taking your strengths, your talents, your voice, and using these human nature ideas that I talk about how to engage human beings to create the best you. So I'm not trying to create clones of Dave Burgess going around. I'm trying to get people to tap into their own strengths and their own voice and some of their own experiences to create the best them in the classroom and in life. And so that's a big part of Teach Like a Pirate that I think that some people understand. So I would send that letter back to myself and saying, like, hey, you're on the right path. Live wide, read wide. All these things that you look like, they look like failures now. They look like avenues that you went down that were dead ends. All that experience is going to come together and it's going to create something magical in the end for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you catch that? So many things to catch that are just absolute pearls of wisdom. Read wide and live wide. Let me say that one again. You may not have caught that. Let me say it again. Read wide and live wide. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, in just this short episode, there is so much information here that it's more than some of you get in a full day's worth of professional development. Ladies and gentlemen, this is powerful. I told you before at the beginning that this was powerful and that this was an episode that you would want to go ahead and share, and you need to do that. Share it, pay it forward, and make a difference in the lives of those you love, your colleagues, and others that you know will be profoundly changed by this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, and I'm going to be truly authentic with you, absolutely authentic with you. This episode is a game changer. And not only for teachers, because some people say, well, this is the Teach Like a Pirate, but I'm going to tell you right now, and I showed you the book before. Ladies and gentlemen, I showed it to you, and I have the book again right here. Lead Like a Pirate, ladies and gentlemen. Game changer for you. I want you to look inside, and I want you to think about who you are and the pirate inside of you, and I want you to be inspired by Dave's story. Ladies and gentlemen, if the viewing of this episode is good, If it's one that really reflects that it resonated with you, we'll try to see if we can have Dave on the show again. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my absolute pleasure and privilege to have Dave Burgess on the show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the original pirate. So as we say on the show, for those of you that follow it, you know, feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. That's impact the right way. See you next time.
Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. Many voices, many faces, all great. This is Many Voices of Great. That's impact the right way. Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. Many voices, many faces, all great. This is the Many Voices of Great. That's impact the right way. Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. Many voices, many faces, all great. This is the Many Voices of Great. That's impact the right way. Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow